What makes a city unforgettable? Is it the people, the music, or the moment when you look around and decide, I could stay here forever? For me, that moment occurred in Rio de Janeiro. I'd traveled alone through more countries than I can remember, from London's fog to Marrakesh's heat, but nothing prepared me for Rio's excitement. It's fresh, living, and impossible to avoid. In this episode, I'll tell you about my 2 weeks in Rio, where I wandered the beaches, ate the local cuisine, and climbed Sugarloaf Mountain. I'll tell you about the best places to visit, where to stay, and how to make your trip go smoothly. We'll also take a break from the beaches for something altogether different, a visit to the mighty Iguazu Falls, before ending with one amazing night at Garota de Ipanema, the bar that inspired the famous song, The Girl from Ipanema. Just before sunrise, I arrived in Rio de Janeiro. I could already see the golden light catching the ocean, the mountains rising behind the city, and the coastline's curve from the plane window. Rio felt different from the several coastal cities I had already visited, such as Sydney, Nice, or Cape Town. More lively, more alive. The city appears to have been sculpted from nature's elements since it sits between the sea and the mountains. I reserved a small hotel in Ipanema for my vacation. The area felt welcoming and safe, and it was close enough to the ocean for taking a stroll. On my first morning, I enjoyed a walk along Ipanema Beach. Even around 8 a.m., the sand was warm, and I saw people running, playing volleyball, and drinking coconut water straight from the shell. It reminded me of Bondi Beach in Australia, but with more rhythm, as music was always playing in the background. Copacabana is just a short taxi ride away from Ipanema, taking around 15 minutes. Copacabana is louder and busier, with more tourists and beach vendors selling beverages and snacks. Still, standing along the famed black and white promenade, I couldn't help but think, this is Rio, exactly as I'd imagined. The next day, I went to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain in a 2-stage cable car. The views from the summit are amazing, with Christ the Redeemer rising high on Corcovado Mountain, the beaches winding around the bay, and the city shimmering in the afternoon light. Speaking of Christ the Redeemer, it was my next trip. You may take a van from Largo do Machado for approximately 130 reals, $25, round trip, which includes admission to the monument. The statue is much bigger up close than I imagined. Standing there, surrounded by clouds, I felt as if I were above the earth. Rio has multiple faces. By day, it's bright and relaxed. At night, it comes alive. I went one evening in Lapa, an area with samba bars and live music. The famous Arcos de Lapa, or Old Aqueduct, shines under the city lights. Drinks are inexpensive, perhaps 20 reals for a caipirinha, and the music never seems to stop. After about a week, I decided to take a break from the city and travel to Iguazu Falls, which I had wanted to visit for years. There are regular flights between Rio's Santos Dumont Airport and Foz do Iguazu. I booked a round-trip flight with LATAM Airlines. The flight takes about 2 hours each way. To make the most of it, I spent 2 nights in Foz do Iguazu, and I stayed at the San Martin Resort and Spa. The next morning, I had a guided tour of the falls. It began around 8:30 a.m. and lasted about 5 hours. The tour included transportation from the hotel and entrance to the national park. Nothing, absolutely nothing, matches visiting Iguazu Falls in person. The roar of the water, the mist rising like smoke, and the rainbows that appear in the sunlight. It's one of those places which makes you realize how small you are. For anyone planning this trip, the flights and tours combine well together. You can travel from Rio early on day 1, arrive mid-morning, spend 2 nights in Foz do Iguazu, explore the falls on day 2, and return to Rio late on day 3. The overall cost, including flights, hotel, and tour, is around 3,000 reals, or approximately $580. Back in Rio, I spent my last few days exploring the quieter areas, like the Botanical Garden, Santa Teresa with its historic tram, and the colorful Celerin Steps. Each has its own charm. But the event that truly marked the end of my vacation occurred on the final night, at Garota de Ipanema, the bar made famous by the song The Girl from Ipanema. The bar itself is simple, with wooden tables, walls covered in old photos, and an easygoing Ipanema atmosphere. I ordered a cool beer and a plate of picanha, Brazil's favorite cut of beef. In the early 1960s, musicians Antonio Carlos Jobim and Vinicius de Moraes used to sit here and watch a local girl, Heloisa Pinheiro, walk to the beach. They wrote a song about her called Garota de Ipanema, or The Girl from Ipanema. It became one of the most well-known bossa nova songs in the world. Sitting there decades later, I could almost imagine them at the next table. Two men playing guitars, a tune wafting through the air, and that same girl passing by outside. It felt like an unforgettable ending. A music, a tale, and a city that makes you feel something. 2 weeks in Rio had passed in a blur, with beaches, mountains, waterfalls, and late nights. The experience, however, was the recollection that lingered with me the most, not the view or the dinner. That feeling of being a part of something alive, beautiful, and always moving. That's Rio. You don't just visit it. You feel it. Travel affects you, but Rio transforms you. It is more than just the beauty of the beaches or view from Sugarloaf. The rhythm lures you in, the laughter, the music, the colors, the warmth of strangers. Even as a solo traveler, I never felt alone here. Every day seemed like an invitation to join the celebrations. And when I sat in Garota de Ipanema on the last night, I realized something. Rio does not need to be understood. It simply needs to be felt. So, if you're listening and thinking about your next destination, perhaps it's time to let Rio find you.